And now, WWAX Productions proudly presents The Spotlight with Justin Hardy. And now, part 2 of our exclusive interview with Chris Wiggins, only on The Spotlight. Many people thought this was the end of Devin Wright, period, but you returned to Flatline Programming a year later as the on-screen general manager in the feud against Anthony Henry and the Rapture. What made you decide to take up that role?
It was a time we did something really cool with Daniel Main. We had to write him off the show, and in order to do that, we still needed somebody who was going to battle back and forth with the Rapture. And if you know, so in March of the time frame, I did my last match. April, I took off. And then I came back in May, and everybody says it was my retirement speech, and I still stand in the stand saying, never said I would retire. I was just quitting, this is my pink slip, my notice, whatever you want to call it, I'm done, I'm just quitting the business, It left me with an opportunity to come back if I wanted to. So then it was like, oh, you're having another retirement match. I never had one. And at the time, I was attacked by what we know now as Rapture. So it just made sense at the time. It was like, okay, well, we need to go in the direction of somebody needs a feud with the Rapture, and we need an on-screen character to be that business person. And at that time, a lot of things had happened to where I broke down and came out before shows or after shows and would acknowledge that I was half an owner, and would acknowledge that I was Chris Wiggins. That was my real name, and that's who I really was. And eventually that ended up getting over with a lot of people. And so we were like, well, let's do away with the Devin Wright character. Let's go with Chris Wiggins as part owner, and have Daniel give him control and run with it. And that's essentially what we did, and it ran for a long time because I think a lot of people wanted to see me come back, or just at least they liked me being there. And maybe it gave them this false sense that I was going to come back and have another match or something like that. But that's essentially how that kind of idea began.
This feud would eventually lead to a match between you two at March Champions 4, the final event in Flatline history. Whose idea was it for you to return in-ring wise? Because originally I heard there were talks of bringing in the phenomenal AJ Styles.
Yeah, that is a true statement. At first there was talks of having me come back, and I was really adamant about not coming back at all. And at that time, when that was brought up, was the fact that, and then as time progressed, we knew that March was going to be the last show that we were ever going to do at Paper's Park, or just ever do, period. And so we decided, okay, if we're going to do a last show, we need to make a super card. And I think one of the best feuds we had, besides the Rapture, was Jacoby Boykins and Shane Hexon. And Jacoby had the championship title at the time, so we decided that we were going to give them the opportunity to have a send-off. Him and Shane would be in the cage match for the last match for the last championship. And we wanted to stack the card in other spots. At that time, I think Anthony had pretty much wrestled everybody, and Anthony was branching out to a lot of other places and building a lot of networking and connections. And his girlfriend, Amber Young, is the daughter of David Young, and was like, if you ever needed some wrestlers to come up from TNA or old WWE guys, just call me up and we'll try to work something out. So, and he also had connections with Bill Behrens, who is a big talent representative here in the Southeast. So it was like a laundry list of names that came through. AJ Styles was the first one that came up, so in the process of negotiating with him, he was in Japan, so it was a long time before we could get back and forth with each other. We tried contacting the Hardy brothers, Gunner. It would elevate the company. It would definitely elevate, Anthony Henry. And if we decided to go on, eventually down the road, we would still have nostalgia. And unfortunately, AJ was in Japan wrapping up his deal with New Japan at the time. And it was rumored that he was going to go to WWE, but nobody knew how quickly he was going to go to WWE. Unfortunately, during negotiations, we just couldn't meet them. And so we kind of dropped the ball with bringing in AJ, before he got to go to WWE and stuff like that. So the next best thing that we could do, because we had a laundry list of guys that we wanted to bring in other than AJ, and a lot of those guys were booked, or either we couldn't get in contact with them. So it was a lot of dead ends, and we figured like the next best story we could bring in would be me versus Henry, because the fans have been wanting to see it for so long. And I think, eventually we ended up making the right decision with that. I mean, we would love to have AJ there, but we seen, he went into the Royal Rumble. I think he did like one other independent show like in February, and that was his last one. And obviously he went on to do Mania, and he was, going with full steam up there in WWE.
As a wrestler, how many years were you active in the business?
On an independent level, I was active for about 10 years. Probably a little less than that. From full-time span. It was like 2005 is when I kind of broke in, and then I quit wrestling really in 2015 time era. But I was off and on, in and out, because of going through Fighter Academy and going through EMT school and stuff like that. So a total time I would probably put in like 7 or 8 years.
How many championships have you won in your career total?
Not as many as you would think. I would say probably like maybe 5, if that. And I held like APW's big belt up there one time. I didn't win any other championships other than that. I held the Flatline Championship one time. I was 2-time FCW champion, and I think I held like their mid-card championship at one time. I think it's called Rage. I held that belt, so it wasn't really that many times that I was a champion.
Now that Flatline has closed its doors, you've taken up a career as a referee. What is that like?
Hard. I started at the bottom of the barrel again. It's like being fresh out of wrestling school. It's, when I say hard, it's once again battling with the schedule that I have. It's hard to get bookings in the independent world. Referees are the expendable ones, I think. So people want you all the time. They're always barking like, "Oh, we want good referees. We need good referees." But with good talent and good work and good help comes somewhat of a price. And I still think that like my prices are extremely low for the my ability to be able to go in there and do what I do. But I look at it as they don't have a lot of experience at this far as years or anything like that. They don't have a good bit of matches underneath my belt. It's just hard to get out there and hustle and to try to get a promoter to see how much you're worth or how much you think you're worth. And that's been my biggest downfall right now, is bargaining back and forth with promoters. Like, and I understand, because I've obviously been on that side of the table and trying to negotiate, but it's a really hard thing to get told that you're really good, that you definitely could make a career out of it. And then on the other hand, when you ask them, can I return, and can we negotiate a price, and they just like, yeah, that's not going to work for me. So it's kind of catch-22. I could be out there on the road, for free all day long, but what does that do for me? It gives me a whole bunch of experience, but in the same process, like I'm not making any money at all. But I'm not trying to pay bills on this. I'm just trying to pay my gas. I'm trying to get a little food. So, I try to negotiate and try to be reasonable, but it's just kind of a hard thing to do. And that's just pretty much the hustle of professional wrestling itself. So.
Do you prefer reffing over wrestling and promoting?
Oh, absolutely. When I was 17, getting into like wrestling, like I did amateur wrestling in high school, and then getting into like Renegade, backyard shows, and stuff like that. When I talked to Daniel Mayen, I was like, I want to be a referee. That's really what I wanted to do, because I'm only 5'8", 5'9", depending on which, doctor or wherever I go. And like WWE looks for guys who make other wrestlers look bigger, and I definitely fit that mold. And I definitely could, I could probably lose some inches in some places, to help benefit that. But really, I got the height down. I'm able to move around the ring. Being a worker definitely benefits me, because I kind of see things happening beforehand. I know what they're looking for. I know what I've complained about other referees, and try not to do that. I know what promoters are looking for. I know what camera people are looking for. I love it because to me, it's more fun. You're out there all night. You have the best seat in the house, and yet you're still part of the show. Now, you're not getting like all the fans' attention and stuff like that, but you're still capable of doing something you love and still being a part of the business you love. So that's kind of my thing. And I go home and I don't feel bad. I feel great. I feel so great. Like everywhere I go, I generally drive. Like I drive all the time. And most of the time people are like, oh gosh, if I'm traveling, I don't want to drive because I'm tired and beat up. I'm usually just tired and I'm not beat up. So I try to drive as much as I can for the guys that bring me along with their shows. So if anybody does listen to this and they need a driver, holler at me real quick. I would definitely willing to drive you to show. If you can get me booked, we can get a little bit of money on that. Because I don't mind it. Ask Anthony Henry. I love driving to Virginia. Not so much on the way back. It's like usually, it's a 5-hour drive to Virginia. So like from 12 to 5, we're driving back. And that's crazy, but.
I know you're pretty much done as an in-ring competitor, but if you could ever wrestle one more match against anyone on the independent or professional level, who would it be?
Oh my goodness. I've never really been asked that question before, because my whole time I've been a wrestler, like I've had name value wrestlers thrown at me, and I've decided not to wrestle them because I like wrestling just like guys that are really young and trying to break into the business. Because I always kind of viewed myself as like a talent enhancement kind of guy. Oh man, that's a hard one. I always thought it would be really fun to wrestle against Hacksaw Jim Duggan as Yasir Akbar. I mean, obviously because he's an All-American guy, and I am the anti-American character. I always thought that would really be fun. Either that or Jerry Lawler.
Any certain dream matches you'd like to ref?
I want to ref all matches that are good. I like being in there with guys who get the business. Tommaso Ciampa was really fun to ref. Jimmy Rave has definitely been one of my favorites. It's just fun to be in there with guys who needs to be done in the ring and just go at it. So I don't have any preferences. I just want to work for good companies and good wrestlers. And so there's no real dream match in particular. I would probably say, and my wife's going to laugh at me. She's like, oh, you're such a little fanboy. But I'd say another Jimmy Rave match, preferably one in the Scenic City Invitational Tournament, because I got to ref 2 of his matches, the first time I ever got to ref with him, and it was just very different. It was one of my first opportunities to ref with somebody who had been into the big, what people would call the big leagues. Obviously Jimmy has a big accreditations of where he's worked at, and he was really fun to work with.
If the price is right, would you ever consider facing a guy named Justin Hollywood?
There's no amount of, but let me tell you this. There is $0 for me to lace up my boots ever again other than being a referee. I took it for people who know of Flatline Pro Wrestling and were able to see March of Champions. I took a hip toss over the top rope from Anthony Henry onto a guardrail, which one side was on the apron of the ring and the other side was held up by a set of steps. And that is one of the hardest bumps I've ever taken. And like the fans no-sold me because they, A, couldn't see it, and B, it was so stiff it made no noise or reaction, and it just hurt. And I was hurting for like a week. And I was like, I am so happy I never have to wrestle again. Because, I mean, as much as I love it, I just don't like being hurt. And I have a baby on the way, and I would much rather, not wrestle again. I think it's because I referee so much, or I did, and I like refereeing that much that I know that I have a lot more fun doing that than wrestling. So I will referee a match with Justin Hollywood Hancock or any of the A-lister. I'll definitely referee his match. I will not wrestle anymore.
There's a lot of buzz going around about a new promotion starting up, Viral Pro Wrestling. Many people are saying that this company, if any, would be the one to fill the void in the CSRA after Flatline's closing. What are your thoughts on that?
I wish all of them the best of luck. I don't know any information on that. The only thing I know is that Caleb Kitchens, who used to do production work for us, has his hand involved in that. But, Thompson's a great area. From the flyer, it looks like they're booking a lot of the guys who need to be there. So wish them all the best of luck. I think at this point, I was very, I might have been a little angry at the end of Flatline. Ultimately it was our choice to close and our choice to walk away. And for whatever reason, we chose to do that. And over those 3 or 4 months, I've really kind of particularly grown and realized that being angry in wrestling business about other people, or just be there's a difference between being angry about quality of companies coming in, but to be gosh, we should be doing this, we had our opportunity when we chose to close that up and move on, or just anything in general. That's the biggest advice I can give anybody. Don't be bitter about anything in the business that happens. People around you, because if one guy can get an opportunity, then the next guy can get an opportunity. And as people move up into bigger companies, that also, for somebody who's new, trying to get into the business, a spot to come in. So that being said, I hope they do well. If I'm off, I might even check out the show. I don't even know if I'm off. When is the date for their first show? I know it's in August, but I don't know the date.
August 13th.
Yeah. If you need a good referee, call me up. Maybe we can negotiate, whoever runs that promotion.
I actually know the owner personally, so I'll speak to him about that and let him know you're interested. But is there ever a chance we will see Flatline return?
Honestly, you could ask me today, and he did, and the answer's going to be no. And the answer might change. Honestly, I don't know. To be honest, I'm not saying that there isn't a possibility, because it is the wrestling business. You never say never. So anything can happen. Just currently, I know that Daniel, I know that myself, we had a huge break from doing the shows. I know everybody who was involved with Flatline, as much as they loved it, they definitely needed a break. And who knows? The band might get back together, you know, a year or two from now. Nobody knows. I mean, when Flatline Championship Wrestling closed, nobody thought that, you know, another company would come in and be able to run like they did, or make wrestling relevant again, and it happened. So who knows?
All right, I have one final question for you, Chris. Is there anything you'd like to say or any advice you'd like to give to any newcomers in the business?
Run. Get out. No, just if it's just something you want to do, make sure that you definitely want to do it. Give 100%. Give everything you possibly can to do what you got to do. Start out young. You can still make it if you start out late, but go to a good wrestling school. Get good training, because going to a wrestling school does a lot of things besides just giving you proper training. It gives you it opens up a lot of the doors for opportunities that if you're trained by local wrestlers or something like that. Because getting trained by local guys, like I was kind of trained by a local guy for a little bit, and it didn't open any opportunities. It taught me how to do what we do, but it never opened any opportunities. When somebody reads on a resume that you went to Joe Schmo Wrestling School, that's all they see. It's like going to Harvard or going to a local community college. People are going to tend to look at you more if you went to a bigger school or a well-known school. So definitely do that. If you're looking to start a family, this is probably not the business for you. Do a lot of traveling, a lot of leaving home, a lot of leaving loved ones behind. Be prepared to miss out on family adventures. You definitely have to dedicate yourself mentally, physically, and your time. So I wish everybody the best of luck, whoever decides to venture into the business. It's fun. It's a very fun business.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you here on the show, Chris. Is there any social media we can contact you at that you'd like to share for future bookings?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Referee Wiggins. You can find me on Facebook as Referee Chris Wiggins, and you can book me via refereewiggins@gmail.com. If not, if you want to, if you can't find any of those, you could always hit up the Flatline Pro Wrestling Facebook page. That's a little bit more popular than I am still, and I still have contacts with people who run that. So that's another way to get in contact with me. But those are my social media handlers.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you, Chris. Thank you for being a guest here on the show.
I appreciate having me, buddy. Wish you the best of luck on all of your future endeavors. I'm just kidding. No, I wish the best on running this podcast, and hopefully this will help you get some more people on and get you some more viewers.
Until next time, as always, I'm your host, Justin Hollywood, and I'll see you next week for another edition. Thank you.
This has been a WWAX production.